Khouri is a distinguished public policy fellow at the American University of Beirut. He joins me now live from Boston. Great to have you here with us on TRT World. So what's the likelihood of the ceasefire coming into effect?
It's the same as it's been for the last few months. They're getting close. They both have demands that the other side is more or less willing to meet, but not 100%. And the external mediators, the Egyptians, the Qataris, and the Americans mostly, are trying to play a constructive role, but none of them has really used their full weight to bring about an agreement. But they're getting very, very close. The problem is that this is existential for both sides, for Hamas and the Palestinians, and also for Netanyahu and his government. If the deal goes through and the Israelis stop the war completely, then Netanyahu is in deep trouble politically at home. If the war continues, the Israelis lose a lot in the global arena. People all over the world are criticizing Israel, including its strong Western allies. And of course, the Palestinians lose a lot if the war continues. So this is really the biggest test of the mediators yet. And we'll find out in the next, I would say, couple of days, maybe 2-3 days. It may require Trump personally stepping in and using his muscle. And there's a hint of that in Witkoff's the talks yesterday or today. He said that Trump has approved this and that Witkoff himself would come and sign the agreement, which is not a big deal, but it's a symbol that the Americans are there to make sure the Israelis keep their word, which the Israelis have not done before. And so it's still a negotiation. This is what negotiations are like.
Rami, but certainly we have seen similar negotiations take place in the past. Is there something significantly different about the negotiations that are taking place right now?
Yes, there are several things that are different, and they're mostly related to outside Israel and Palestine. The first is the Iran-U.S. talks, and these are making progress. And Israel is vehemently against the U.S.-Iran deal on the nuclear issue and the sanctions. The Americans seem committed to going ahead with it. The second thing that's new is the loss of support and prestige and respect that Israel has in the Western world. It's had very little respect around the global South, but in the West, Israel has had very powerful partners and supporters and funders and armorers, and that's slowly dissipating. There's a lot of people in the West, powers like the UK, Germany, France, others who are criticizing Israel openly and saying we might have to put sanctions, we might have to renew the association agreement with the EU. This is all new. Israel has reached a level of precarious standing among Western powers, which is really existential for it. And so those are two new elements that Israel has to consider. Hamas itself is under a lot of pressure as well, and they have to consider the benefits of continuing to hold on to their negotiating position in view of the terrible, terrible suffering that the Palestinians are experiencing, and the criticism of Hamas across much of the Arab world, where people are not happy with the Palestinians being destroyed like this. But at the same time, popular support for supporting the Palestinians is still very high. And so there are these new dimensions around the region and around the world which have to be taken into consideration.
Rami, has the role of the United States changed at all? I understand this war began after the October the 7th, and it's been going on since. There was a different administration before January of this year. Now there's a different player in the White House. I want to understand, how much of an influence does Donald Trump have on ending this war?
On paper, in theory, he has tremendous influence. He could stop the war tomorrow if he wanted to. The same way that Eisenhower got the Israelis to pull out of the Israelis and the French to pull out of Sinai. in 1956 when they invaded. So, or to get Begin out of Lebanon in 1982 when he invaded Lebanon. If the United States orders Israel to do something and threatens to withhold military support, Israel will do it. It has no choice, even though it has nuclear weapons. And so the U.S. has tremendous potential support, but it's reluctant to use it. What we've seen recently is the American president getting more involved in the negotiations and trying to be even-handed. We don't know if he really is even-handed or not, because we keep getting conflicting reports about what actually was offered, what was accepted. The Israelis keep changing their mind. But the American president is more involved, and there's talk of the U.S. Witkoff has said that Trump would personally guarantee the results of an agreement if it happens. This is what Hamas is demanding, because they agreed back in January and the Israelis didn't follow through after the initial ceasefire. They then resumed the war, and they're continuing it now. The Hamas will not accept this. They don't want just to sign a piece of paper. They want tangible political guarantees, and it seems that this can only really come from the President of the United States himself being a party to this agreement, which would be quite historic if it happens. People will debate whether it's actually a reasonable thing to do. Can you trust the Americans? You know, the Iranians had a great agreement with the Americans on nuclear issues 8-10 years ago, and then Trump just pulled out of it unilaterally. And so that, you know, the U.S. has not proven itself to be a credible negotiating party or a effective mediator. It's trying to adopt a more credible position now for various reasons, the main one being that Trump wants to try to stop all of these wars around the region and make a lot of money and do trade deals and investment, and which is a good thing for everybody. If it filters down to ordinary people, if it just makes the rich billionaires in the U.S. and the Arab world more rich, that's not such a good deal. But that remains to be seen. But Trump seems to want to end the wars, if possible, including Ukraine. He hasn't had much success yet, except Yemen, where he unilaterally said he's going to stop attacking the Ansarullah fighters. So there are signs, serious signs, in practice and in words, of some kind of adjustment in the American position in the Middle East and its own role in the conflicts in the Middle East. And the U.S. has now talked to Hamas, which is a positive move, I think. And we'll see if this continues and pays dividends. What the Israelis will do in return to the U.S. or to Trump's incumbency or to the Republican Party remains to be seen, because the Israelis will be very critical and will try to stop it.
Fascinating insights, Rami Khouri. It's always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much for joining me here on TRT World.
Thank you.